Revelation chapter 1, verse 5 tells us that this one would be the first to be begotten of the dead. We are now examining the intrinsic parts of the word gotten. We discovered that the word gotten is describing actions voiced about Yahweh ben Yahweh by people within the nation of Yahweh that they said existed or occurred in a time previous to the present. We discussed some of those statements and told you that they were false statements and that the witnesses agreed not together. Despite the fact that these were all false statements, they fulfilled the prophecy in Mark chapter 11, verse 18, which said that they would take these false statements to the scribes and chief priests, who would in turn seek how they might destroy or get rid of Yahweh ben Yahweh. We define the word scribe and learn that it means writer, which is synonymous to journalist, myth maker, and scandalmonger. We then define those words and learn that these are people who write and disseminate stories that are false, untrue, and fabricated. People who write and report stories to injure others by speaking malicious utterances of false reports. We also defined chief priest and learned from these definitions that chief priest means the United States government, the president, his cabinet, the Senate, the House of Representatives, the judicial branch, the FBI. All of these actions were done that the scripture might be fulfilled, as it was prophesied that these things would happen to Yahweh ben Yahweh, the first begotten of the dead. Today, we will see how Yahweh ben Yahweh was the first to be begotten of the dead, as we review the past actions caused by false statements given to the chief priests, the local and federal law enforcement agencies, and to the scribes, the media, by liars from within the nation of Yahweh. To show you the events or occurrences that took place during a time previous to the present, we will now carefully examine the intrinsic parts of the word get, which is the present tense of the past participle gotten. In Random House College Dictionary, Revised Edition, copyright 1988, on page 554, get means to communicate with over a distance. Documented in Webster's 7th New Collegiate Dictionary, copyright 1965, on page 168, communicate means to have communication. On this same page, communication is defined as an exchange of information. On page 289, exchange means to give in consideration of something received as an equivalent. In Random House College Dictionary, on page 385, distance is defined as an extent of time. Therefore, from the word get, we can deduce that over an extended period of time, members from within the nation of Yahweh have given false information to the chief priests, the FBI, and to the scribes, the media, in consideration of receiving something as an equivalent exchange. What was this something? For the answer, let us open our Bible to the book of Luke, chapter 22, verses 4 and 5, which reads, "And he went his way and communed with the chief priests and captains, how he might betray him unto them. and they were glad and covenanted to give him money. Captain is synonymous to leader or boss. Thus, this scripture affirms that the chief priests, the FBI, and the captains, the leaders or bosses of the media, covenanted to give these lying informants money. Covenant, according to Webster's New World College Dictionary, 4th edition, copyright 1999, on page 334, means a formal, sealed contract. On page 316, the word contract is defined as an agreement between two or more people to do something, especially one formally set forth in writing and enforceable by law. Therefore, the chief priests, the FBI, and captains, the leaders or bosses of the various media, formally agreed in writing to give two or more hypocrites in the nation of Yahweh money for their false testimonies and stories about Yahweh ben Yahweh. The word money has many meanings. One of its many meanings is documented in the illustrated Reverse Dictionary by Reader's Digest, copyright 1990, on page 348, which defines money as a contract or the like held by a third party until certain conditions are fulfilled. Money also means the same as escrow. According to the synonym finder by J.I. Rodale, copyright 1978, on page 745, money is equivalent to wealth. On the authority of Webster's New World College Dictionary, 4th edition, on page 1620, wealth means great amount of worldly possession, any useful material thing capable of being bought or sold for future disposition. On page 415, disposition means settlement of affairs. Thus, the FBI and the media have a written contract between two or more hypocrites associated within the nation of Yahweh. This sealed contract is enforceable by law, and it guarantees that a great amount of worldly possessions is given to these liars in exchange for their false testimonies against Yahweh ben Yahweh. It further guarantees that any useful material things capable of being bought or sold for future settlement of affairs may also be exchanged for their false testimonies. For example, these false testimonies may be sold for publication in books, magazines, and newspapers, and even made into movies. The particulars of this contract to date are being held in escrow by a third party until certain conditions are fulfilled. When all the conditions stipulated in the contract have been fulfilled, then the Judas family, two or more hypocrites associated within the nation of Yahweh, will receive their payments in full from the U.S. government and the media. We will discuss these conditions in a future program. From today's discussion of the word get, which means to communicate over an extended period of time, we have dispelled the myth that if you get in Yahweh, you can't get out. From the facts we have just presented, you can see that members of the nation of Yahweh had the freedom to speak with whomever they chose, and apparently they also had the freedom to come and go as they pleased. To substantiate these facts even further, let us turn to Matthew chapter 26, verse 15, and it reads in part, "What will ye give me? And I will deliver him unto you." According to the Synonym Finder by J.I. Rodell, on page 272, deliver is synonymous to communicate. The word communicate, as we explained earlier, means the same as get.